welcome the sponsor of #JFR, Coach Steve Sisson of Creative Mornings.
Thank you, Kelly, and thank you, Creative Mornings, Ben, and everybody at Creative Mornings for this amazing opportunity to get a chance to share with you guys today. So I want to start off basically with a confession. My first confession today, and I'll probably make multiples as I get my paper out here. I'm a coach, okay? And my brothers and my sister get really frustrated with me a lot because it seems like at every family event, every family thing that we do, I'm always trying to tell them how to do whatever they're trying to do better. That there's more they can do, that they can be more, they can execute more. And sometimes they're just like, damn, dude, I'm just trying to sit here, have a beer, and hang out with you. Why do we have to talk about all this other business? So I will tell you that as a confession early on, because most of what I'm going to do today is coach. And what I'm going to try to do is share some concepts and some ideas with you, completely motivated by this theme of rebel or rebel. I hadn't even thought about rebel, the action verb. I can't even believe that I didn't think of it from that perspective. But I'm not going to highlight any specific rebels. I'm not going to highlight any grand model for this idea of rebelling. What I'm going to try to do is to try to bring out the inner rebel in you and try to bring some concepts up that you might not be considering that might help you in your endeavors. I come at this world from the movement perspective, from, I call it move through space. Do something with your body. If you do something with your body, amazing happens. Many of you in the creative community, you all are also making things happen and creating amazing things. I think there's going to be a lot of parallel in some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today. Initially, just wanted to warn you that I'm probably going to try to coach you up a little bit. So first of all, a little short background on Rogue. Rogue started 10 years ago in the back warehouse at Runtex, basically creating really tough Olympic quality caliber style training for the average everyday person. My viewpoint was, why in the world do people need who want to prepare for 26.2 miles or 13.1 mile race and they can't even run 3 miles? Why do they just have to do walking or progression? Now, we progressed, folks, and we did a lot of those things, but I also thought people would get really excited if they had something a little tougher, something a little meatier, something that actually would make them feel really good about the things that they were doing. So that's really where Rogue came from. Our main focus is on community. As Kelly stated, it's a huge piece of what we do. We believe by running with other people, sharing with other people, you're going to be much, much more effective. And my personal goal in Rogue is challenging people to overcome their personal limitations. We all have limits. Almost all of those limits are perceptual. Many of them, you can be amazing, you can do amazing things if you'll just risk. So that's a little background on Rogue. I'm not going to talk much about Rogue today. I'm going to talk about being a rebel. Definition: what is a rebel? What is a rebel? A man who says no, but whose refusal does not imply a renunciation. I love the existentialists. I don't know why. I should probably be putting my head, a gun to my mouth, and shooting myself in the head. But I have a few existentialist quotes here today because I think that they really get down to the nitty gritty. You know, we're all born buck naked and all alone, and we're all going to go into the grave buck naked and all alone. That's absolutely true, and the existentialists really highlight that really effectively. But one of the things that I think is really cool here is, what is a rebel? It's a man who says no, but that refusal is not a renunciation. That is not a negative. It's a positive. It's an affirmation, a confirmation, basically, of the nature of things. I think one of the things that's really important to consider with this is that something has to come first, okay? So origin. Anybody who rebels is rebelling against something, all right? A rebel is not just going with the flow, conventionality, moving down the road, right? They're looking at the world and saying, I don't like it. I see something I don't enjoy. I see something I think could be done better. I see something that must be different, all right? Whether it's a high-minded concept like Mahatma Gandhi, or it's a low-level concept of somebody wants to get burgers and fries in people's bellies, you know? At the end of the day, somebody's saying, this isn't, I want that. So origin is rebelling against. However, one of the key concepts that I talk to with all my athletes, whether they're Olympic level athletes or they're everyday runners, is this concept that you have to be this concept of purpose and understanding your purpose and knowing your purpose. And I think that rebelling or being a rebel is you're going to something. So you're rebelling against something, but you're also going to something. That to something, in my opinion, for many of you, and I think in the creative community, something that can help you all is to be clear on your purpose. What the hell are you doing and why are you doing it? And if you check in with yourself on that basis, your own personal purpose, I recommend you write a statement of purpose. Write something down for you that states today or this month or this year, that's who I'm going to be. Write it in such a way that if you had to, you could shout it from the rooftops. You could share it with the world. Because if your purpose isn't something you can do like that, you're not a rebel. You're conventional. If you can rebel against something, but you can't stand there and say, this is what I want. I'm moving towards something. I'm moving away from it, but towards something. Please think about that. You need to have a plan and a purpose, and the purpose will make a huge difference in your ability to be effective in all areas of life, but in the creative community, just like in the running community, I think it's equal. So I really wanted to share that with you. Creating a statement of purpose is a really idiosyncratic and personal thing. Each and every one of you have to create it different. Every single person in this room would come up with a different purpose, even though you're in the same community or similar communities. When I do this with my elite athletes, they're all getting ready for basically the same event. The U.S. Championships in track and field happens one weekend, yet I get 20 different statements of purpose because each one of them has a different objective, a different way of looking at it. So I encourage you, as you look at being a rebel, yes, it's saying no, but it's also moving towards something. It's not a renunciation. This is a big word for me, authenticity. I would say that in Rogue's mission statement, the third word is building an authentic community. So building a authentic community, to me, what is authentic? Authentic basically is just being you. I've got a great quote for this. Do not go where the path may lead. Go instead where there is no path and leave a trail. Do not go where the path may lead means be courageous. Have a big set, right? Have the ability to say, I'm going to go my own way. I'm going to go it alone. I'm going to go down this road. And basically, when you do that, you need to absolutely be prepared to be lonely. Because if you make a path and you're on your own and you're leading and you're rebelling, guess what? Maybe people will follow you. Maybe they won't. It may take them 5 years to follow you. It may take them 10 years to follow you. But at the end of the day, if you've got a statement of purpose and you've got a reason for doing it, it doesn't matter. You're making your path, making a roll. Keep moving on it. But the thing that's really, really important here is that even though you may be alone and you do have to make you may be alone and you do have to make your own path, it's really important that you understand that you need to leave a trail behind you. You aren't alone, even if you are alone just for those few minutes. And in my experience at Rogue, it seemed sometimes that we were fighting against all the other groups that were doing the similar things that we were doing. And when I finally realized that I didn't have to respond, I could authentically do it my own way. I could do it however I felt like doing it, or I could do it the way that our community then, as I did it, then the community followed and they made their own authentic community. People did follow. And you have to trust that they will. I'll tell you this, though. The world absolutely needs you. I need you. Everybody in this room, if you look to your left or to your right, you need the other person in this room. Because if we don't have each other, we can't make this world perfect. We have no chance. We need each one of us. It's so cheesy. Each one of you is a snowflake, right? A snowflake. Everyone is individual and distinct and unique. But this is crucial. If you aren't actively, authentically being your core self with a purpose, you can't change this world. You can't. You're not a rebel. You have to be authentic to be a rebel. You have to be authentic to be creative. We don't need another piece of art that looks like somebody else's art. We don't need another media campaign that looks like somebody else's media campaign. We don't, do we? Yet, it seems to me that things are always slowly but surely moving. Be bold, move, please recognize the world needs you. I need you. Be authentic. Oh, the big one. Failure. So, how many of you know Abraham Maslow? You've read his, everybody pretty much knows his hierarchy of values, right? But a lot of people haven't read more of his work, and he's a really brilliant writer. And this quote is just amazing. One's only rival is one's own potentialities. One's only failure is failing to live up to one's own possibilities. In this sense, every man can be a king, and therefore must be treated like a king. Failure. I say this to all the athletes that I work with all the time. If you do not fail, you cannot win. You have to fail to grow. You've heard a cheesy statement of, if you don't fail, failure is an opportunity. Well, it really, really is. One of the things you have to realize about failure, though, is that it's scary, it's difficult, that learning is not easy. And so when everybody says, oh, it's an opportunity, they don't realize how difficult it is. With athletes that I coach, frequently it means that they've got to go practice failing so that when they get into a competitive event, they know all the things that might come up and all the variables that might get thrown at them and be able to handle them effectively in a moment, right? So failure, in my opinion, is not living up to your own potentiality. This kind of goes back to the snowflake idea that you have to be the best you that you can be to change the world. Failure also brings to light another concept, and that's that competition. Failure kind of has to fit in with competition, right? You're going against something, you're trying to compete against something. Competition is good. We need results, we need deadlines, really? We need finish lines, we need contracts, we need boundaries. We need them because if we don't have those basic things in line, we're going to have a really hard time effectively accomplishing something amazing. You have to have that to know what the standard is. Hopefully you go up and beyond that. Hopefully you take it to another level. Hopefully you go beyond everything. But that competition, without a starting line, without a finish line, without a deadline, you're not going to get things done. So don't look at those aspects. I know in my world, the start line and finish line is so scary. And I imagine for you all, deadlines, contract, those kinds of things are a little bit scary. But recognize them that you need it. You absolutely have to have that to be effective and to be creative. You're not trying to beat anybody, all right? That's one of the things about competition that really, really is, I'd like to beat into people's heads. Competition in our community, in the United States, we think about it's cut people's heads off and shit down their throats, right? Like, I gotta crush you. And competition is really not about that. Competition is about having somebody there to keep you accountable to reach the goal and reach the objective that you're doing. And the athletes that I coach, they need a runner next to them. If they did it by themselves, they wouldn't run fast. And if they ran a race all by themselves so they won, nobody gave a damn. They just ran against themselves. So we need competition, and that competition is going to make us better people. They're going to make us more effective. It's really, really important. I think that's something that generally in the United States, we really forget. And it's something I try to really push with my athletes, both elite and everyday athlete, that your failure is not a failure, it's an opportunity. But more importantly, you need these struggles, you need this competition, you need these things to keep you accountable. Competition isn't just people. When you think about competition, it's not just you and your cubicle or you and your world trying to get something over on somebody else. It's also ideas, concepts, vision. All these things are competition. They're things that can make you better. Again, I'll repeat it to you. It says here, one's only failure is failing to live up to your own possibilities. It doesn't matter what the person next to you is doing. It doesn't. What matters is what was your purpose? What was your objective? Are you moving towards that? And the only way you can fail is to not be you, not to be authentic. This brings up another concept, ethics. Ethics, I'm not talking in the big picture philosophical worldview ethics. What I'm talking about with ethics is everyday personal decision making that is essential and important to effectiveness. This is my man right here. Bobby D, Robert Zimmerman. To live outside the law, you must be honest. This is for all the rebels out there who think that breaking the rules, pushing the edges, means that you have a license to do whatever you want. You have a license to hurt. You have a license to kill. You have a license to, because of your vision, because of your rebellion, because you're moving towards something that you think is great, that you can cheat, lie, steal to get there. And honestly, this took me many, many, many years to grasp. But the rebel has a higher ethical standard than anybody else. A higher ethical standard because they're making the way. They're making the path. They're creating it that other people are going to follow. Now, ethics doesn't mean you have to fit into conventional worldview ethics. You don't have to make, my ethics may not be your ethics. But you have to be honest with yourself. You have to know what you're trying to do. And you have to be able to do it in a way that other people can follow and do it. And if you're going to live outside the law, you had better be ready because people are going to be coming after you. Everybody's watching. In this world, everybody's watching. We've got little cameras. We've got little things. We've got hashtags. We've got all these things. Everybody is watching. So you had better be honest. Everybody wants you to fail. It's amazing how many people want us to fail. I hear my athletes say this all the time. Oh, I really hope that they don't run faster because if they run faster, then I'm going to have to actually, what they're saying is I'm going to have to make my game better. Well, that's just ridiculous. So they want the person next to them to fail so they look better rather than looking at it from a much bigger picture, which is they're going to help me reach the goals that I want to reach. Yeah, only one person can win. Only one person can get second. Only one person can get third. However, we should be in a position where you recognize that if they do want you to fail, you'd better be doing it right. And you better be thinking about the way you're doing it because it's going to be all over everywhere. And as I said, you're making the path that everybody else is going to follow. So that ethics is that you are going to be responsible. I've experienced that in my life, in my entrepreneurial life, in the business life of Rogue, is that many times some of the things that you don't realize till later, that the choices that you made and the decisions that you've made, they might have looked great for you in your space. But when it gets magnified, one mistake, when it gets magnified to the 10th power, the 100th power, and we see 3,000 people train with us in a year. If we've made one mistake or one ethical misstep or one thing that didn't make us honest, we're going to see that reverberation across our spectrum through all the athletes that we have, and they're not going to be as good a people as they could have been. So I'm encouraging you as a rebel to be considering your ethics, at least be considering what you know it means to be honest in your authentic worldview and your authentic view of what your creativity is. So there's a final concept I want to talk about, responsibility. When I talk about responsibility, I'm a little bit crazy. I think some people think that that this is an untenable and wait, oh, I'm talking too much. An untenable and unreasonable expectation. Not that people be personally responsible, but the kind of responsibility I'm talking about. It's another existentialist. Man is condemned to be free. Man is condemned to be free. Because once thrown into the world, he's responsible for everything he does. It's up to you to give life a meaning. The thing I like to talk about I like to talk about radical personal responsibility. Radical personal responsibility is this. Not only are you responsible for what you do, and I think everybody would accept that as a definition of responsibility, right? You're responsible for what you do. But I also believe you're also responsible for everything that happens to you. Think about that. Car comes in, hits me. I go to the hospital. But it was an accident. Yeah, but I have to deal with that accident. If I make a decision to hurt you, I have to be responsible for that action. I have to be responsible for everything that I did do and everything that happened to me. Because at the end of the day, we're buck naked and all alone. And we're going into the ground buck naked and all alone. I'm telling you, your worldview, whatever your worldview is, I hear you. But that may happen after you're in the pine box, okay? And that's a hope, right? That's a faith. That's a hope. I don't hold that, but I do recognize that as a huge value. But it is important for you to understand you're the one making your path. And if you're a rebel, you are having absolutely, extremely focused on being radically personally responsible. If there's anything that I tell you today, I think that's the most important point I can get across to you. To be honest is to be truly yourself, visioning your own vision, creating your own space, working in an origin from something, but going to another thing. But doing it in a way that is authentic, beautiful, and amazing. Everything in this world is up to you. If you want it, you got to make it. That's a very rebellious statement. I think it comes back to that idea of having a purpose and recognizing your purpose, and recognizing that if you create a plan and a purpose for yourself, you live authentically, you refuse to consider failure failure, you're honest and ethical in your expectations, and you hold a really radical sense of personal responsibility, you're going to change the world. You might change the world if you don't do all those things, but I promise you there will be some things out there that will hit you that will make you question the effectiveness and the life-changing, worldview-changing opportunities that you have. Where am I at time-wise? Cool, I'm good. Awesome. So, sorry, it feels a little heavy in here. Maybe I've got you guys all like, oh man, this dude is like harsh. I'm harsh because the term rebel really motivated me. When I heard it, when I saw it, it just made me so excited because I thought, what a great opportunity to get people to realize that they're amazing and they can make amazing. And I really do believe that if you accept some of these principles, whether you accept them in your life as a way, as a path for yourself to live, or you just use it as a way for you to be more creative or a way for you to be more effective in the work that you do, or even if it just helps you relate to the person next to you a little bit better, a little bit more in a loving way, recognizing their participation in your experience is valuable, necessary, and amazing, I think you'll have gotten a lot out of this discussion. In closing, I want to close with basic two ideas, two concepts that we talk about in the running world. One is, and this is really typically Rogue in the sense that the way we do this. So we ask our athletes, I have athletes that run, anywhere from 50 miles a week to 100 miles a week, work full-time jobs, have families, cook dinner, live life. They're really serious about this. They meet at 5:30 in the morning with me. And I'm tough. I'm really, really hard on people. I train them very, very difficultly, and they work really, really hard because they want to reach a goal. They want to set an objective. They want to reach a goal, and many times those goals are really number-based because these folks, many of them, my elite athletes, they're results-based, but the other athletes that I coach, my community athletes, many of them are just numbers-based because they want to reach a certain objective, get a Boston qualifying time, get a personal record, run better. So we train them very, very hard to meet that specific objective. But when I send most of my athletes out to run their race, one of the very last things I tell them before they run is I ask them to run a beautiful race. Not an effective race, not a timely race, but run a beautiful race. Try to run a race that you can look back on and say, man, even though I had this problem and this problem and this problem, I overcame those problems. I did everything I could do to make it beautiful. Authentically my own. Whatever experience I had, whatever challenge I had, whatever difficulty I had, I overcame it and I ran a beautiful race. I ask my athletes frequently afterwards, did they? Many of them when they get done with a race, they know it. Like they're giving you high fives, they're smiling from ear to ear. And even those athletes that don't achieve that objective, many of them, it's crazy, they're all excited and happy too, maybe because they ran 26.2 miles and they're like, nobody does that very often and it's a very difficult thing to accomplish. But, that concept of running a beautiful race is something I really hold dear. I think it just brings this beauty and this amazing concept of your actions and reactions having an impact on the world around us, as I talked about before. But let's just say that somebody goes out there, everything's going wrong, like last weekend at Austin American, at the Freescale Marathon in Austin, the Austin Marathon. It was a really hot day. People trained really, really hard. It got really hot at the end. Wheels came off. People had really difficult times in their races. And so in those moments when everything's going wrong, we have another statement that we use at Rogue. It's just fucking run. So if I leave you with one thought and one final concept, it's that all of these things are wonderful and fantastic, But do the work, people. Do the work. Don't let something stop you. Do not let this morning's headache or tomorrow morning's challenge stop you from getting done what you need to do. At the end of the day, that's what it's all about. Just fucking run. Thank you for the opportunity.